to become who we want to be as individuals. And at the end of the day, that's going to help us be a successful offense.
Man-to-man, one-on-one coverage because the safety rolls to Jefferson's side.
Jordan Love hit me up the night of the draft, was just congratulating me, letting me know it's time to work. A.J. Dillon was open arms.
Von Rock caught a ball with his thighs. We didn't even talk about that.
It was more of with his ass.
If he throws a good ball, this is a running, catching touchdown untouched.
Like, KP does like these flips after every win, and I'm like just waiting for him to do his flip.
To know that we still love each other, that's what football brings us.
Across the safety's face.
You can tune in anywhere that you guys follow us on social media. Welcome to the Practice Squad Podcast, episode 57. My name is John. I'm joined by my co-host Mark, and we are looking at the NFL Week 1 in the rear view at this point. All of that hype leading up to it. And Mark, I don't know about you, but I think it lived up to the hype for me. Crazy start to the NFL season. So much to talk about this episode. College football had a few exciting things happen too. I'm super excited to get into it. How are you doing?
The script was written pretty well, I think. I think they did a pretty damn good job to start the season off, set the tone. Some amazing games, some big time overreactions probably after week 1, but that's what it's for.
Right.
And I can't wait to get into it.
Absolutely. And also we need to bring in now, I think, a 3-time guest. So official
He's
friend of
gotta
the
be our
show.
most popular recurring guest, right?
Just audience loves him. Can't get enough of the guy. So of course, got to bring him on. Joe Spengros.
And know that we
want to know, boys.
Joe was at Arrowhead Stadium, or is it Goffhead? Was it Goffhead? Did they change the name while you were there still, or when you were leaving?
Goffhead.
It might be Goffhead now. But he was in-house representing Detroit Lions there in that awesome upset win. We'll get into that in a second. But we want to do some exciting announcements and some college football talk before we get into the Lions.
So exciting announcement, which, man, we have been working on this for like 2 months now, so I'm finally excited to unveil it. But the merch line is getting an update, and so our plan here is to get a dedicated t-shirt for every single team in the NFL. And we didn't think what better division to start it off with than kind of the home division, the NFC North. So we are launching next week. It will be up on our website, the NFC North merch line. And just to show you guys what we're dealing with here. So this is the Bears one. And obviously, if you are from Chicago, you will see quite a lot of things paying homage, be it, refrigerator, Sears Tower, all of that good stuff. The bowl.
Rings.
Yep.
6 rings.
Dicka. Shout out to Evan Pulaski too. He is the artist behind all 4 of these designs, and I thought he absolutely crushed them. Obviously, for us Detroit fans, and look, personally, biggest thing I'm excited about right here. If you're from Detroit, I'm sure you
recognize
know
that
very well.
Yeah,
and it holding the Bears head and the Vikings head goes hard. Another fun one for Green Bay.
You got Vince Lombardi in the middle. You got the quarterbacks, legendary. You got the Milwaukee Bucks and then the Wisconsin Badgers.
And then we got our Minnesota Vikings one with their ship being US Bank Stadium too. So
iconic Randy Moss moon.
Yes, these will all be on the back of the merch. We're going to also probably do a couple different variations of them. You'll be able to get them in white, black, or like kind of like a beige tan color because the neutrals are in right now. And we updated the Practice Squad logo to kind of go on the front, kind of like my t-shirt on the breast right here, matching the colors. So we're pretty stoked on this, and we appreciate everybody's patience as we've kind of been working to get this out. Joe, first impression while you're here, being pretty much the first person to see it other than Mark and I.
Love it. First question I have is, should Fields be on that Bears one?
No.
After that performance, hell no.
I'll tell you what, Bears fans should be worried. However, I like the merch. Merch looks good. I'm going to have to get me some Lions merch. I'll tell you that for sure.
Hell yeah, let's go. But yeah, we're super stoked on it. And also we updated the website too. So I feel like I should pop that open real quick too. Looking a lot cleaner than it previously did. So yeah,
it'll be updated with the new designs too. Once they'll be officially You can buy them on the website. We're looking at next week, so we wanted to show them to you guys. Obviously, won't be able to purchase them till next week. We'll keep putting out reminders. We'll share it all over our social media accounts and stuff as soon as you can buy them.
Yes, absolutely. But we were too excited to wait until next week. We had to show everybody what we were working on. Okay, so getting directly into football, man. What do we want to talk about first? Probably, the biggest upset in a while, Texas beating Alabama. That game was crazy, man. And
Texas is back. Texas
gotta be, right?
Here's the thing. It's such a perfect singular game to show the transition of what college football is right now. With the NIL, what we've been talking about all offseason, how it's going to change football, how quickly is it going to change football? You see it happening now. It isn't, it's going to happen. It's going to take a couple years to kick in. It's happening now. Nick Saban's era of just pure domination across college football is over. We've seen him lose some questionable games the last few years. This one, probably the worst, considering it's a Big 12 opponent, Texas coming into Tuscaloosa, and honestly, push them around. And just, it wasn't really that close of a game. I mean, Texas was the better team. It wasn't like it was a fluke. Quinn Ewers is kind of a stud, might be a Heisman candidate. Texas is totally back, as Joe said. But the biggest thing is there's a transition, right? With all these teams joining the conferences, hey, how's Texas, Oklahoma going to be able to come into the SEC and compete? Well, how about coming in and taking down the king of SEC for the last, decade and their first chance to play them in Tuscaloosa? So I think that's going to show you where college football is going. These teams that have money, aka Texas, that's going to be
and that's what I was going to say is this is the take that I made 1 week ago, where I think that NIL is more likely to level the playing field and make the competition tighter than it is to separate the team. It's the haves get richer, right? The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. I think it's the exact opposite. I think as long as there's a donor base at the school, which most of these giant ass schools have large donor bases, that's all they're going to need to be bringing good athletes into their program. And it's going to be making every single team better. It's not just, all of these kids going to the exact same school that's, number one in the conference anymore. So,
and it's also a point to say, obviously, Steve Sarkisian, a former coach for Nick Saban, not too often does his former coaches come back as head coaches to beat him. But Kirby Smart has had his number, and now Steve Sarkisian has beat him. That's probably not a great feeling for Saban to have the guys that you used to, train and mentor come and beat you in your house. I think of passing the torch, we're seeing it. The Clemson era, the Alabama era, it's shifting, and some of these other schools, Florida State, Colorado, can be thrown into that hat. You're seeing a whole different era of college football.
And
I would go as far.
Go ahead, Joe.
I would go as far as saying Texas is in the college football playoff. They have
easily
two games. They have 2 games on their schedule: Oklahoma at home and Kansas State at home. And you can lose one of those. You're now gonna get into the college football playoff with 1 loss and then a win in week 2 or week on the road at Alabama.
Could be.
I would argue and say they're in the playoff.
And Florida State is another
Florida
huge.
State.
Florida State. On that note, Mark wanted me to pull up this play.
This is Joe's boy, former
ex-Spartan.
Ex-Spartan. Joe's the type of guy that when someone leaves his team, he still roots for him. It's kind of weird.
He's so
it's
good,
like if
your
girlfriend dumps you and goes and gets with some other guy. It's like you still root for it. You know what I mean?
He's a freak show. Look at this guy.
He's a total freak show, dude. I mean, this play, we got to run this play back a couple times because, as John said when I first showed him this, go ahead, say what your first thought was, John.
My favorite part about this play is that he makes the decision to hurdle this guy like 5 yards before he even gets there. There wasn't a question in his mind. He made eye contact with him. Watch, catches the ball, slows down, and then is like, "Nah, I'm hurdling this guy."
This was not a reaction. It wasn't a reaction. It was, I'm going to do this.
Right. Which that's free. It's not how that plays out most of the time. So
is he in the Heisman talk, Joe? He might. Him and his quarterback Jordan Travis might be. I mean, he had a freak game against LSU.
Yeah, I mean, 3 tutties and then come back with another one. I mean, he's definitely right here. I don't know if he'll withstand that all year. But I mean, no one can guard him on one-on-one coverage in all of college football. That was apparent at Michigan State a year ago, 2 years ago. And he could start on their basketball team in November. Like, he's that kind of talent.
Yeah. Definitely boosting his draft stock so far this season with Florida State. I mean, I love the number of college football narratives that's going on right now. I feel like it's the most exciting right off the get-go that college football has been for years. I've been saying this to Mark, like I really start paying attention like 3 or 4 weeks before the season ends usually. I've been watching college football just as much as NFL because all of these games have been so exciting. Competition's been so much tighter. It's exactly what I was hoping for. So I'm really stoked on it personally. And, in other news too, Mel Tucker, I just had a Freudian slip there. Mel Tucker, obviously getting fired from Michigan State. A lot of messy stuff going on there. It's wild that Michigan State athletics can't seem to figure out this entire like sex scandal, sexual harassment situation. It's just kind of been, a rotating door there with presidents and coaches and athletic directors. It's really messy. Definitely not a good look. Kind of crazy that, we're getting a similar crazy situation repeating with that. So, but what are your guys' thoughts on it?
The toughest thing with it is no matter which way the story goes, because as it stands right now, there's a lot of questions in the air. Obviously, you never want to assume that someone's guilty. You want to see what happens and what plays out. But if what she's accusing is the truth, it's a horrible, horrible story. And I can explain, like Brenda Tracy is a rape survivor, rape victim back when she was a student as a high school student, and visited Oregon State. She came to speak to our team when I still was playing at Central Michigan, goes on, tells her story. It's a terrible, horrible story. Very emotional. It's very moving though. And its impact is, there's no doubt, right? You hear how brutal that story is, and it's going to inspire change. And the whole thing as she goes school to school, telling this terrible story, going through it in her head over and over again, is to prevent stuff like this from happening to anybody else. The fact that Mel Tucker would even see her as even a potential, opportunity to try to pursue her in any sexual way at all is, I think, just terrible judgment. But if it is, not consensual, that's just, it's a horrible, horrible thing.
Super messed up. Yeah. I mean,
on the contrary too, though, John, we've seen this before. And I'm not saying this is what the case is, but if this is the case, what he's accusing is that she is targeting him because of some sort of falling out, and she wasn't happy with whatever happened. And if she's accusing him falsely and ruining his life, right, and falsely accusing him if it was consensual, it's you could argue it's just as bad, because you're destroying a man's entire life. You're taking away his name. You're taking away everything he's ever stood for and worked for. On a false thing, if that's the case. And we've seen that happen before to draft picks in NFL. And it's just it's just as bad to even the Bills punter, right? We've talked about him, right? Falsely accused. He got cut from the NFL. He lost his dream and everything he's ever worked for, and was found, not guilty a couple years later. But it's too late. When you Google his name, what's the first thing that's going to pop up? So that's the kind of thing that we're dealing with here. It's not good either way.
And obviously, like you said, Mel Tucker posted a pretty lengthy statement, trying to, I guess, not totally refute some of the claims, but I guess kind of say that the way in which they were characterized isn't fair to what actually happened. I struggle with it because I don't think Mel Tucker's the best judge of character, just from other stuff, off-field stuff that he's done. So it's messy. I thought them kind of name dropping Jim Harbaugh in the middle of that really legal statement was really weird too. I don't know
how she's approaching it is kind of interesting, and then obviously how he's handled it. He first said that he came out and said that they weren't true, and then he admitted to some of it, and then they're both handling this very, very weird. Something doesn't seem right. John, your conspiracy that you're kind of alluding to is the fact that Michigan State wants Tucker out. And in order to do that cleanly, they're going to have to pay him a lot of money. If they have reason to fire, which this would be, who knows, right? Who knows what people are willing to do?
That's my conspiracy right now, is that I think this was supposed to be an internal kind of report thing, whatever. And Michigan State saw blood in the water, wasn't happy with him as a football coach, wanted him out of their organization and, not attached to that massive contract they signed him to a couple years prior. And I think like I do legitimately think to some degree or another, regardless of the weight of the accusations, that Michigan State was looking for an out of some sort. It happened to be that they got one on some, pretty legitimate causality, obviously, but it's still
maybe we don't know
situation.
for sure. We don't.
Yeah,
know.
It's a lot of people are jumping the gun on a lot of stuff at once for sure with the situation. So it's
Joe,
crazy.
what are your thoughts as a student? Yeah, I mean, former student.
I mean, like you mentioned, it's at this point right now with what we know, it's really just a he said, she said situation. And I mean, ultimately, I don't know if we're ever going to know exactly what happened. It sounds like this hearing isn't going to provide a ton for us, and we're not going to know. Like, I want them to release the phone call. That's the only way that people will know exactly what happened, how it happened, when it happened. Regardless, I mean, he's done at Michigan State. His last game was Richmond. There's no way, even if they come out and say everything what he did was consensual, fine, he still acted inappropriately to someone the university was paying. Like, you just cannot do that. So he's done at Michigan State. I don't think there's any way that he coaches another game. I think
probably done as a coach.
I don't know about that. I mean, the way football and winning works, I think he'll maybe sit out a year. If he gets fired and after the October hearing, he'll sit out the rest of this year and then go be a defensive assistant for Nick Saban, like he used to coach for Saban, something like that. Go for Kirby Smart, defensive assistant. Yeah. But I don't know. I was all in on Sparty winning the game on Saturday, and I'm kind of more in on it now. Being a Michigan State fan in recent years, this is just kind of the game that we just win. Like, there's no other reason why we're not as good as them. They're better than us. Our program's kind of in the shitter right now with Tuck. And then you somehow win the game, and everyone's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah,
so I don't know.
Antonio coming back and as an assistant is really interesting too. I mean, at the very least, I think he can maybe try to shift the culture back in a better direction. Because I know he's not coming on as a coach, right? He's more so like an advisor.
He's like an assistant advisor. I mean, I'm sure he will be a leadership figure, a leadership role for them.
He'll calm down the locker room, which is all that you can ask for at this point.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, crazy situation. I mean, the amount of college football firings and scandals that I feel like has happened even before the season's really started has been kind of crazy, especially for Big Ten. So it's a bummer.
And one last thing too, it's about the whole Tucker thing. Like, you can say what you want. He said, she said, we don't know the truth. But at the end of the day, like, you have one thing as a head coach in college football making that much money that you can't do.
Bro, actually, he doesn't have.
There's like two things he can't do.
Bro, he doesn't have one thing or two things. He has 95 million things and 95 million reasons why you can't do any of what you're going to.
But there's only like 3 things that he could do to mess that up, right? Because
don't murder somebody, don't commit fraud, and don't sexually harass
or like that's literally it. Like, maybe don't try to bang the person that's coming to speak to your players about sexual assault, rape, and harassment.
Crazy.
Maybe don't get horned up when she's talking about that. How hard is that to do?
Horrible judgment. I mean,
she's talking about a horror. I'm telling you, I've heard the story. I sat in that meeting, the same presentation she gives across the country. I sat there. I don't know, and how anybody in the right mind can think, I'm going to try to go hit on this girl. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah,
and he's married. I mean, it's like,
that's the other interesting part of it that we didn't even mention.
What are we doing?
He just nuked his entire marriage while he's had it too. So yeah,
what are we doing here, man?
Crazy stuff. All right, so to shift into NFL news, which honestly, there should be champagne going off on this podcast right now because the Detroit Lions walked into Arrowhead and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Fair and square. Yes, they were missing Travis Kelce. I don't care. They played good football. They capitalized on the mistakes that were being made by the other team, and they found a way to win. And I was jumping out of my seat for half of that game because I was just not only was I really impressed about, the offensive ball control run game, right, which is how we speculated the Lions were going to be able to win this game is just by controlling the ball. The defense really showed out too. That Brian Branch pick 6 was absolutely electric. I cannot wait to see what that dude does for the rest of the season. He's already playing at an NFL caliber, and it's just been such an awesome journey to watch this team turn into a team that can literally David and Goliath go up against the defending Super Bowl champs and win it. Joe, my first question to you being there was, Mark talked about going to the Green Bay game last year. Like he kind of, one of the best like stories, narratives was just kind of like how he was getting treated by Green Bay fans and kind of how like that, shifted over the course of the game, the confidence kind of diminishing bit by bit. Do you kind of have any examples of that happening, of, you being a blue jersey in a sea of red, getting heckled at all, and then them kind of just quieting down as the game
Joe's
went on?
a heckler. He's a heckler.
Yeah,
I know.
bit,
So
yeah.
I know he was clapping back. Exactly.
He's a total heckler.
Yeah, the boys that I was with, we were getting after it a little bit. The first thing that my shtick was that I was saying the second I walked in and saying to everyone around me, I just kept looking people in the face. And I go, "You're looking a little nervous today. You're looking a little nervous." And everyone was saying, No. We have Mahomes. We're fine. Go look at that banner. The girls next to me kept going, "We have Patty Daddy." I go, "Okay, you look nervous though." And then as the game went on, we went up 7-0. Started going crazy.
Did you chirp instantly?
Yeah.
Right
then the pick six right into the end zone that we were in. That was crazy. We started going crazy then, and then it really all shifted. Obviously, when we scored, but then the one moment when I thought that we like for sure were gonna win is when Pascal made that stop on 3rd and short.
That was such an amazing play. Oh
right then and there, I was like, we won.
And a horrible play call, by the way, from Matt Nagy. I forgot Matt Nagy was who was stepping in to start calling their O for Eric Bieniemy. And let's not forget, Matt Nagy didn't do a great job with Chicago. Like, hey, not a great call. Maybe when you have Patrick Mahomes, like maybe don't run jet sweep on 3rd and whatever it was. Like maybe think of a different play call. Yeah, I mean, Joe, what was the environment like leading up? Like before the game, obviously, is the banner night. I mean, you said you were walking around drinking tailgate to tailgate. Were you friendly? Was there any crazy things you saw from Kansas City fans? I mean, does it live up to the expectation of what, Arrowhead is, loudest stadium, toughest place to play, all the stuff that they say?
Yeah, it lived up to everything. I'd also been to Lambeau for either a Monday night or Sunday night game. I forget. I was a little bit younger. Lambeau was insane. It's a little bit of a similar concept where it's the stadium and then nothing around it, just parking lots. So the Kansas City Royals, their baseball team is right next to it, and then there's nothing probably within a mile or half a mile. There's one gas station, a good 20-minute walk from the stadium, and that's it. So all it is parking lots. All it is people tailgating all day. We probably got to the stadium. Game was at 7:20. We probably got there around 3. Just people tailgating everywhere. Cornhole, smoking meat. They're all big barbecue down there, drinking beer, talking with Lions fans, talking with Chiefs fans. And then we went to the game early. And the weirdest or craziest thing that I saw, which, mind you, it was first day of NFL, and like you said, the ring ceremony, but the stadium was packed, full. Every single person in their seats with over 45 minutes left till game time. The players were warming up to it. The players were warming up to a full stadium. Like Patrick Mahomes was making passes. He was warming up doing his 5-yard pass, 10-yard pass, 20-yard pass, 30-yard pass to a full crowd. And everyone's just like cheering as he's throwing the ball. Like it was insane. And then the other big moment when I realized like, all right, this stadium's like legit. These people are loud. And the national anthem. I don't know if you guys can hear on TV. Instead of saying home of the brave, they say home of the Chiefs. And I didn't know that. I had never heard that or never seen it. No one said anything. And that scared the crap out of me because it was loud. Like every single person on the top of their lungs screams Chiefs. And I was like, all right, it's go time now.
Listen, the asterisk that they say that they put next to it,
it's so garbage.
Bullshit, dude. Bullshit. Because, I mean, one, Detroit did not play a very clean game overall, and they still beat the defending Super Bowl champs. That's, I think, one big thing you have to notice. Two, Detroit was up against it in terms of missed penalty calls the entire game. They called it one time. That is a huge deal. I don't think people realize how much of a disadvantage your defensive pass rush has. The only chance you have against Patrick Mahomes is to pressure him, right? So if you take away our best guy, Aiden Hutchinson's ability to put pressure on him by cheating your alignment into the backfield and by leaving early on almost every single pass snap, I mean, I don't care who you put there, Aiden Hutchinson, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, it doesn't matter. You're going to struggle to get home and get pressure on Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I cannot believe that
they let it slide the entire game. I mean, Joe, you obviously didn't watch it on TV. Joe didn't notice the entire game.
being in stadium, we didn't notice once.
Yeah, you can't tell.
Not only
they're
the
talking
false
about
starting, but really just the alignment too.
The
like
leverage,
you're saying, to be able to cheat off of that. I mean, that totally locks it up on Pass Pro, and that's again like not legal at all. So
no, not legal in any way. They
nuts.
showed it. They showed it over and over again on the TV broadcast.
The crazy part is Hutchinson still bullied the shit out of him most of that game.
Still was
getting, he was
still, able to make stuff happen, and other guys stepped up on the defensive side of the ball. But there's no doubt about it. This is a different Lions team than last year, even. And really, I think the defensive secondary, I mean, some dropped interceptions, some opportunities to create more turnovers than even what we got. But we were all over the field. This was obviously now the rookie play. They came in and they didn't play them a ton. But when they did play, they made an impact on the game in a positive way.
All four
Jameer
of them.
Gibbs, all four of them. Laporta probably played, and Branch played the most snaps overall, I'd say, of the rookies, and they did fine. Laporta, I think, exceeded expectations. He blocked better than I thought he would, right? There was questions about his blocking. Everyone knows he can catch the ball and make plays after the catch, but he came in, he blocked his ass off. He had a huge block on the game-winning GH counter touchdown in Montgomery. Jack Campbell didn't play a ton, but when he was in, again, made plays. Jameer Gibbs flashed what he's, why he was drafted so high. And then obviously Brian Branch, and, to get a pick six against the best player in the NFL in your first career NFL start, obviously it was right to him, but to be in the right play, to make the play. Kadarius Toney,
the Jets there too.
Obviously,
he was like they counted against Branch in his pre-draft process. Get out of there with that. He's got football speed, clearly.
Obviously, the Chiefs didn't play a great game, and you can make all the excuses you want without Kelsey and Chris Jones. But listen, man, to go into that stadium, you've heard it firsthand from Joe about how intense it was on banner night, and with all of those distractions and all of those motivations for the Chiefs to come out and just do what they do, which is win at home, for the Lions to go in there and do what they did, not playing a perfect game. Like everyone thought it was going to take a perfect game to beat them. Not even playing. I wouldn't even say they played really, really well. They just played okay. Like I thought that Detroit just played okay and won. Yeah. So that is
got to have you excited for Seattle too, especially. I mean, they did not really show out this week. I mean, I think that home game atmosphere is going to be
crazy,
absolutely insane. And my takeaways too, just to again, rookie play, like you were saying, Mark, like all four of them, I thought really impacted the game. Gibbs is lightning in a bottle. I cannot wait to see what the tandem of him and Montgomery accomplished.
Thunder and lightning, dude.
Yeah,
thunder and lightning.
It's insane. And then I think one of my favorite parts about this too was the fact that the Lions ate 8 or 9 minutes of clock on that last drive, just doing exactly what winning football does, is just crush the soul of the defense. They just rammed it down their throats for 9 minutes. Hardly gave Casey any time to respond. I mean, there's nothing sexy about that drive. It was just hard-nosed, gritty football. It's exactly what Dan Campbell built this team to do. And it's drives like that are going to make them a team that potentially can win playoff games.
And, dude,
that's how you win those games.
Goff was a dude all night long. He held in there in the pocket, took some hits, made some impressive throws. Again, far from perfect, but he did what he had to do to win the game. And like you said, John, if you're Detroit and you can run the ball like that, which people expected, if you can run the ball like that with different variations, giving the ball to different people, you can hit play action, you can hang in with just about anybody in this league, right? Your defense is improved on the back end. You can get after the quarterback a little bit. You're going to be in most games. As long as you don't give games away, you're going to be in most games. And that gives you, that has not been the case in Detroit in our lifetimes. So I'm excited.
Dude, speaking of in our lifetimes, I was saying this to a bunch of Chiefs fans, besides Mahomes, and maybe you can throw in Nick Bolton, linebacker, the Lions were better at every single position. Every single position besides quarterback, and maybe you could throw in linebacker, which is, we've never been able to say that against the defending Super Bowl champions. I get there's roster turnover in the offseason after winning a Super Bowl, but every single position but one. That is insane. We have never had that in our lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, our new and improved secondary is crazy. I mean, I thought they went from being a complete liability and weakness last season to being one of the strengths of the defense. It is so hard.
Gardner Johnson's a stud, dude.
Yeah,
we still don't have Mosley
opportunities. Yeah, and
Mosley's going to be a huge addition. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about. It's week 1. You don't want to overreact, but
no, I'm overreacting. This team's winning like 14 games.
Yeah, well,
They're
dude, it
winning-
might
they're
not be
winning
an
the North.
overreaction. I mean, there's enough. Oh, here's the thing. That's the thing with the North is the North didn't exactly show out besides Detroit. I mean, Minnesota lost at home. The Bears did not look like what the Bears were predicted to
Hey,
look like.
as I
And
said,
obviously-
Green Bay looked the best
Hey,
out of those.
but
three
they win
teams.
against the Bears, so we'll
Right.
see, right? Like we'll
That's
see.
a good
I
point.
mean,
Yeah, and look, I said this like I was mostly concerned about Seattle at home. I would say like going into the season, that was the team that I was most worried about that we were going to play at home. At this point, I legitimately believe that we can go undefeated at home. I said that before the season started, and I'm doubling down there. Playing to a sold-out Ford Field crowd every day with a good record, with that defense, with that offense, I think that we can beat every team that walks into Ford Field, and that's awesome to say.
yeah. Well, going into that game, I mean, the Rams rushed all over Seattle, and if you're going to do that
Yeah.
to the Rams, I'd like to think Detroit can probably do something similar in our running game, considering I think we have a better O line and better running backs than Los
Way
Angeles.
better O line, way better running backs.
So-
and I said that was Seattle's biggest liability was their pass rush and their interior O line. I think those are liability. Well, and now it's their entire O line too, because of the fact that they're going to be for sure missing their starting left tackle. They probably are going to be missing their starting right tackle. I mean, I think our defensive line is just going to eat them alive. I would expect Geno Smith to get sacked 4 or 5 times next week. Like that's kind of my floor of the amount of pressure he's going to get next week. So, yeah, exciting stuff to be a Lions fan right now. Like it's crazy to be saying this and like not really have a whole lot of concern or trepidation about confidently being like, yeah, this team is full of dogs and they're going to win a bunch of games this season. Feels good.
Yeah, it,
So-
it feels good. Don't jinx it, dude.
Should be 2-0. Should be 2-0.
Should be. Let's just let it happen. Let's just let it happen.
all the trauma responses are going right now. It's like
This shit's different, bro. This shit's different. Listen to Gardner Johnson.
Yeah, I like the ski mask too. Did you see he's saying, "Hey, Brad Holmes are calling us villains," so I'm wearing a ski mask into the game every single week. He's such a character. He's so entertaining. I mean,
We have some characters on our team, man.
It's
a fun team. It's a fun team. It's an easy team to root for, even if you're not a Detroit person, which is awesome. And we have people jumping on the Detroit bandwagon, like that are not from Michigan or like that's also never happened.
Very weird. Joe, while we still have you here, before we let you go, any other hot takes about week 1? Anything that you're looking forward to? Anything that you just want to talk about while you're chilling with us?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have any huge takes. I might have some more after a couple weeks, but I mean, I think Lions have the North. I think it would be a big failure, and something big would have to happen in order for us not to win the North. I think Anthony Richardson, I've been on here before supporting my guy AR-15. I think he looked fine. I think that Jags team is legit. I think people are not as high on them as I am. I think Trevor Lawrence is an MVP candidate, and I think he's going to be top 3 quarterback by the end of the year. The other team that I'm very high on, it could be an overreaction, it could not. I think the Browns. I think the Browns are a sleeper in the AFC. I think that defense is legit. I think Deshaun Watson will just continue to get momentum as he plays and as he wins games. And then, I mean, Nick Chubb, year over year, is proven to be a top 5 running back. So I think Conklin, their starting O-lineman, he got hurt out for the year. That one hurts pretty
It's
bad.
a big loss.
Yeah.
But
we know how good Chubb. We know how good
Browns.
We know how good Chubb and Deshaun Watson go together. You know,
Yeah,
Chubbs and Watson do really well.
Watson's going to be
Couldn't help
chubbed up
himself.
when they're in the AFC Championship. I'll tell you that much.
I mean, I don't want to overreact because the fact that the Bengals have struggled to beat the Browns. I think Joe Burrow's 1-5 against them. It was something I forgot going into that game. He scored me a whopping 3 fantasy points this week, so that's rough. But
I did say that in last week's episode, John, about
getting
after Joe Burrow. He hasn't been practicing that D-line. You know,
I do agree with you, Joe, that I mean, I think that division's going to be a bloodbath regardless, but the Browns definitely just completely dominated the Bengals. And, you know, to beat a team like that as bad as they did, I mean, that's a pretty good sign that you're picking up some momentum as a team. So pretty exciting stuff to watch. Joe, thanks for coming on, and it was cool hearing your firsthand experience and perspective about, pretty much watching Detroit Lions history get made at Arrowhead. Said one of the more memorable games that I've watched on TV. I couldn't imagine the atmosphere being there in person, watching that happen.
Yeah, crazy shit, man. Definitely the best NFL game I've ever been to. So
the takeover, man.
1-0, on to the next one.
Yes, sir. Hey, thanks, Joe. Hope you have a good one. Catch you later.
Thanks, fellas. Go Lions.
Let's go. Peace. So we got a lot more NFL to cover too, obviously.
No doubt about it.
Another big one is the fraudulent Vikings did not take until a playoff game to get proven fraudulent. The Buccaneers.
John, do you want to pull up our picks as we start to go through these games?
Yeah. That's probably wise. Thanks for helping me, know how to manage a podcast, because
I remind, as I said last week's episode, when John walked away from the camera for 30 seconds, he at times is an idiot, but most of the times he's pretty smart.
Need a little help sometimes, for sure. Okay, so just really quick too, we updated last week's graphic, and then with updating last week's graphic, copy paste that bad boy. We got next week's ready to go to discuss, but sticking on this one until the end of the episode. Obviously, we got Lions KC. Talked plenty about that. Super electric, exciting game. Mark, do you just want to go one by one here, and I'll just kind of hop into some of the Twitter stuff as we talk about the game. So hopefully my memory serves me right on what's relevant to what.
Yeah, we'll just go game by game. We'll talk. If there's more we want to talk about with each game, we'll talk about it. It's, obviously we just covered the Lions game. John and I were both right about that one. Bijan coming out party in Atlanta, that running game, as John was very confidently talking about, was going to come back. It was a great running game last year. They have a great scheme. They're definitely slept on up front offensively, and it showed. They came out and pushed Carolina around. Bijan and that running game was dangerous. Obviously, his touchdown run the catch was ridiculous. I mean, to make those two guys miss and then still score, he's special. There's no doubt about it. And that hype, that fantasy hype, all that stuff he's going to live up to it. There's no doubt about it there.
That run game is legit, and it's dangerous for sure. Any team that they face is going to have trouble dealing with that, regardless of where they're at kind of defensively. I just think that, as we said, right, you can beat good teams if you can dominate ball control, block the shit out of people, and have a good run game. So it's demoralizing for defenses to deal with. It eats up clock. And, it showed with Carolina, who, by the way, has a pretty good defensive front seven, like one of the better ones in the league. So if they can bully Carolina's defense, they should be able to bully just about anybody. So that game was definitely interesting. Ravens, Texans. Mark, you were right that the Ravens kind of struggled to pull away. Unfortunately, you did not get this bet right for one of your best bets. By the way, Mark did 2-1 for his best bets. I was 1-2 for mine. So right now Mark has the lead. But the Ravens did struggle to pull away. And my biggest takeaway from that game, Zay Flowers. I thought he was going to be wide receiver 1 by the end of the season. If he plays like he played this past week and keeps that output up, he's already wide receiver 1.
He's shifty, man. He's special. Hey, my biggest takeaway from that game, yes, the Ravens did cover, and they definitely didn't pull away the way everyone thought they would. But Lamar Jackson, not a great performance, not a great showing. He turned the ball over.
Messy.
And I warned people of this, and I still am warning people of this. Do not get too high on Lamar Jackson. I know that he's special and can do some really special things, but it's the consistency at that position that he has lacked, and that has cost them the big game. And I mean, obviously they played against a CJ Stroud who wasn't ready for the Ravens defense played well. And it's a very tough first defense to go against for Stroud, but you play a functional team and you turn the ball over like Lamar Jackson did, you don't win that game. And there's not a lot of room for error in the NFL. And that's definitely a thing of concern for Baltimore. A lot of people high on them going into this season. I don't think the Ravens are going to do very well in this division, especially with the way the Browns played, which will lead us into that next game. There's some serious concerns. And the injuries in Baltimore.
What I was going to say is before we hop into the next game, I think another issue too is this team. I think the part of the reason they failed to reach those high expectations is because of the fact that they have been a pretty injury-prone team over the years. And unfortunately, this year's no exception. J.K. Dobbins basically right after being fully healed up from his ACL injury from a couple years back. Now tears his Achilles, and really, I think this is going to lead to his retirement. I mean, his contract is up this year, and we've seen the way that NFL running backs tend to get treated in this league. Unfortunately, I do not think he will be a Raven next year. That's for sure, and I think he might struggle to get signed somewhere for anything other than kind of practice squad, third string kind of money, because he is too injury prone for anybody to want to sign him to a long-term deal. And he's just kind of going to be, a mercenary on where he can get jobs for the rest of his career. And
NFL's business.
I know. I'm saying this not like I want it to happen. It's the shitty
business.
Reality.
Would you want would you want to sign a running back that's coming off of a torn ACL and then an Achilles? Like, I wouldn't. I'm not putting any money invested.
No, it'd be viewed as a huge risk. I mean, and again, that's he's not going to get long-term money as a result of that. And it's a bummer for him because he's a damn good player when he's healthy, man. He can do some crazy stuff, but availability is the best ability. And that has been, J.K. Dobbins' curse pretty much ever since he's gotten to the NFL. Bengals, Browns, man, the Browns came out swinging, and Bengals always start slow some way or another to start the season. They don't perform well against the Browns. In hindsight, looking at this, like, they shouldn't have even been a favorite, I don't think, to win this game, just based off of that history. They got crushed that game, and it wasn't close. And offensively, they were miserable. They looked really, really bad. So
everything that could have went well for the Browns did. The weather played in their favor. You had a home game. Joe Burrow, coming off of an injury, clearly was rusty, did not have enough practice time. The chemistry was off with his receivers, the timing, everything. The Bengals running game is not as good as the Browns. It just was a perfect situation for Cleveland. And I'm telling you, the Browns are a serious threat in this division. And the better Deshaun Watson continues to play, and the more that they get comfortable with Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper in this passing game, that's obviously just going to make it easier for Nick Chubb as well. So and I'm telling you right now, the defensive line of the Cleveland Browns is going to bring problems for Lamar Jackson, Kenny Pickett, and Joe Burrow all season long in that division. And it's not an easy matchup with Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett. There is not a bigger two-headed.
Myles Garrett was playing with their
freak.
offensive line,
and they're moving him around, similar to what they did with Hutchinson in Detroit. They're moving him around inside. They're moving him around from the edge. Zadarius Smith is good enough to come off the edge as well. So, like, they're just toying with offensive lines. And I know Cincinnati's not known for having great quarterback protection, but who's going to be able to protect against that with ease? There's nobody. Yeah. There's no team. There's no quarterback that's going to go against that and be in a favorable matchup. So Cleveland's going to have an advantage against everybody in the pass rush game all year long. And I'm telling you, like, Deshaun Watson's play can take them to the promised land, or they're still going to be very good, even if he doesn't live up to the expectations that they have for him. But they're for real.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, to Joe already said this, but to his credit, like, Anthony Richardson did not have as bad of a first game as I was expecting him to. One thing, though, is that the Colts kept it nice and simple for him, and he threw to his right like somewhat, I think it was like 90% of his passes. He just chucked it, 5 or 10 yards to his right. That's going to get predictable, and I can guarantee you, I don't know who they play next week. I guess I can cheat and find that out. I guarantee you the Texans are going to be watching that on film and are going to find every way possible to toy with him in relation to that if he doesn't make an adjustment there. But yeah, I mean, honestly, Colts play better than I expected them to, especially because I'm putting a lot of weight on this Jaguars team being legit. So I mean, what are your
Jags are legit? Listen, I'm an Anthony Richardson hater. John, I don't know if you saw the clip. They made an Anthony Richardson hype video. Did you see that?
I did not.
They made an Anthony Richardson hype video, and I ended up somehow somebody made an edit, and my TikTok of me ranting about how they got tricked started the hype video.
No way.
Yeah, dude, check your text. I'll send it. I'll DM it to you, and we'll show it here in a second. And as I do, we'll still talk about this game. But I thought he actually played a lot better than what people expected, especially me. But what I took away from this game is he's going to have an opportunity to keep this team in games because they're going to use him freely. But what scares me is obviously the interception came at a really bad time. They had a chance to go down there and make it a game, and you just can't throw that. You just cannot throw that in that tight window that he tried to fit it in, and he knew it right when he released the ball. That's what the Jags tricked him, right? And I know teams are going to do that to him, and teams are just going to do more and more of it. You saw it in the preseason, you saw it in this game. You can't afford to be a bad football team like the Colts are and have those turnovers in these chances to win games you shouldn't win. So I just sent this to John. You can pull it up if you want to show.
How did you find this? How did
Tyler Winnicky sent this to me? Because it came up on his TikTok. He's a diehard Colts fan, and this just it coincidentally came on. I don't know who made this or what it is, but it's not good, because if he lives up to what Colts fans hope he's going to live up to, I'm forever going to be. I feel like Skip Bayless if he ends up being good. Like,
look, in what we do,
I had so many people text me.
We're gonna have bad takes. Like, it's just gonna happen, Mark.
Hey, I would not call it a bad take yet. He's
hold on, no. Let me finish my sentence. We're gonna have bad takes, and you're just gonna have to roll with those punches for sure. And so in relation to that, right now, I think that's great publicity actually for our little small podcast. I'm super stoked that people take our takes and dub them over hype videos. That's awesome. But yeah, I do not think it's a bad take yet. I think he has a lot of learning to do, and he is 0-1, like you said, and he's already revealing some tendencies that could come back to bite him. So, just things to keep an eye on. But like I said, I think he played better than I expected him to. So
yeah,
that's all.
That's definitely a true thing. I had so many people texting me like, he's like, I know we lost, but you have to admit, like, he showed some things, and of course he's going to show some things. He's a freak talent, but it's not the some good things; it's the some bad things that are what are going to be his demise. That's what I've been saying from the beginning. And
I mean, Jags are known for having good offense, not like top tier defense. I'm afraid for when he plays a top tier defense because like that's where which we'll jump to this, in a 2 games, but have Tannehill level interceptions, which is just man.
DeMeco Ryans might get the best of him next week with his scheme.
Yeah.
With Houston's scheme. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But definitely a good one for the Jags, and definitely a team that's dangerous as hell in the AFC. And like Joe said, Trevor Lawrence very easily could be an MVP candidate. He grows every single year since they got Urban Meyer out of there. Doug Peterson's a quarterback's best friend, and I'll tell you, they look dangerous as well. We go into the next game. Baker Mayfield, talk about feeling dangerous. He woke up feeling dangerous that day. Chip on his shoulder, the size of a freaking mountain. Listen, I know people hate on Baker Mayfield. I find it hard not to root for him. I see the flaws that people point out about his game, but you can't deny the dude's a competitor, and he's won so many games in this league that he shouldn't win. And he's done it for different franchises. Minnesota at US Bank Stadium, 6-point favorites. They were one of the bigger favorites going into this Sunday, and they come out with a loss. Tampa gets it done there. Can we show the Baker Mayfield clip, John? Of him?
Yeah, we can.
Because can we have the volume up as well? Yeah, let's because this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. Pulls it. The stiff arm is nasty. Gets up and calls this dude a little boy twice. Get that weight up, little boy. That's what he says to him 3 times. You can see this stiff arm. I mean, this is a quarterback that you want to play with, right? If you're a receiver, running back, lineman, and your quarterback's doing that, that's contagious, man. And they won the game, and we'll see where Tampa goes with it this year. Obviously, they didn't look incredibly impressive offensively as a whole, but they got it done. The defense looked pretty good. Kirk Cousins at 1:00 didn't really live up to that expectation.
No, and that's what I was gonna say, man. Is like if Tampa's taking it to you, not good.
Not good. And the biggest thing everybody thought, right? The Vikings defense probably was improved. They looked better overall. But these close games that they always find themselves in, they won all of them last year, and they're 0-1 this year. And again, you're usually gonna split those games. You're not gonna. Right. You're not gonna lose them all. You're not gonna win them all. But guess what? For Minnesota,
and if they split all those games from last season,
500.
They're an 8-9 win team. Exactly.
Yeah.
So something to keep an eye on for sure. I thought that Flores was gonna kind of give that team a makeover defensively. it was marginally better for sure, but I wouldn't say it was a massive improvement. I mean, Tampa Bay scored 20 points on you. Like that's, that's crazy. So yeah, I'm curious to see if the Vikings, live up to the hype or can even come close to matching their results from last season. All right. So I was in attendance for Titans Saints. I wanted to get some videos out there, but I wasn't really able to just because there was no internet in the dome. It was my first time in the Superdome. I've been to New Orleans, I think like 4 or 5 times now throughout my life. It's one of my favorite cities. It was previously a flight away. Now it's a 7-hour road trip away, roughly. Loved my time there. We got there Saturday, did all the stuff, watched some jazz, ate some beignets, drank some hand grenades, listened to some amazing music. Really, really good time. There's this guitarist at this bar, like closer to when we were ending our night. And the dude was just like it was mostly rock music rather than jazz. And it was just shredding his ass off, like taking requests from everybody. Super cool.
Did you get up there and shred with him?
Oh, no, but I did ask him to play some Led Zeppelin. And they started jamming on The Ocean by Led Zeppelin, which if you're not a musician, that song's not the easiest to play. And like I said, they basically just hopped right into it and then, started jamming on it. It was impressive to see somebody do that because again, like that is not like a jam to it song. Like that usually requires some rehearsing. So that was cool. Then yeah, we woke up the next morning, went to the dome. Here's my takeaways from the dome living up to its hype. First of all, the steps were like twice as tall as average steps on the upper levels that we were at. And what that does is instead of you feeling super far away from the stadium when you're kind of in the nosebleeds like we were, you feel like you're on top of it. And all of that sound is just going directly onto the field. It was hands down the loudest stadium I've ever been in. My ears hurt during the third downs and stuff like that. Super awesome environment. And then, the part that I struggle with though is the Saints kind of looked like last year's Saints, where the defense was just absolutely dominating. And then the offense was kind of struggling to capitalize. They picked off Ryan Tannehill 3 times. They got pressure pretty effectively the entire game. Kind of kept Hopkins at bay. But offensively, they didn't really do a whole lot. Carr was running pretty frequently. But at the end of the day, they won the game. The first touchdown, I don't think happened until late in the third quarter. It was nothing but field goals until then. So it wasn't the most exciting showing in the world, but it was still awesome to be there and watch. And yeah, super, super cool experience. Legendary stadium. But have my concerns.
Yeah, there's definitely some concerns. That was one of John's losses and his best bets.
Both the Vikings and the Saints were.
They failed to cover. They did win, but they failed to cover. And then obviously the Vikings lost outright. Yeah, that was awesome that you were at the game. Definitely some concerns for both those teams, the Titans and Saints. But here's the thing. One team's 1-0. And they get to try to improve and be 1-0, and one team's 0-1 going into a tough matchup next week. So,
I felt like I was watching the same team play itself, where it was just
similar.
Tons of defense. But one thing I will say that is getting me very excited is that the Saints receiving trio, assuming Mike Thomas is healthy, is pretty dangerous. Shaheed has very legitimate over the top speed. Olave as an underneath guy is one of the smoothest route runners possible, and he has over the top speed. And then Michael Thomas was just kind of, there as a physically dominating presence and was able to catch anything that came his way. So he can keep that up and, get Kamara back in a few weeks. I'm thinking the offensive productivity will hopefully, be a little bit better than it was this week. But
speaking of games that weren't close, the 49ers came out, and I was dead wrong about this take. The 49ers came out and showed that they just push people around. They do what they've been doing the last few seasons. It doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter who they're playing against. Brock Purdy came out and showed that last year was not a fluke. Ayuk came out and showed that he is not a backup weapon, that he is a primary with the rest of the primary weapons that they have.
Yeah, no kidding.
Boza came out and showed why he deserved to get the contract he got. It's just, they're built to win football games the way that they win them. They control, they do it the way they want to do it. They run the ball, they hit play action, they make it very, very comfortable for their young quarterback. They have weapons all over the field, and Shanahan does a great job of spreading that ball around in creative ways with Kittle and McCaffrey and Debo and Ayuk. I mean, it's a nightmare to try to prepare for that. Pittsburgh couldn't do anything offensively.
No, and we were hyping up Pittsburgh, man.
I know.
I get this is not an easy matchup to start the season with, so I'm not like out on Pittsburgh yet by any means. But I was expecting a good chunk of improvement from this team year over year, and it still might have happened, but it did not show in this game.
Did not
whatsoever.
Because here's the thing, I think San Francisco also improved, right? And they were head and shoulders better than the Steelers last year, and I think both teams improved, but all you see is this. I think the 49ers improved even more, right? And they're definitely in the Super Bowl conversation after week one. I think they look the best of any team week one overall. Totally. And yeah, I mean, I was dead wrong on this take. I thought the Steelers were going to try to steal one. They were never in this game. The 49ers are for real. Can we show the clip of the downfield blocking? Because you talk about the star power that they have, but if you show this entire clip, this is McCaffrey's touchdown. You look at the down the field blocking. Ayuk lays a guy out.
That's how you win
to
games,
hustle.
man.
Look at the hustle from the backside receiver. He waits till he turns and squares his shoulder so it's not a block in the back. McCaffrey sets up these blocks, trusting that his guys are going to be there. I mean, the fact that he slows down and lets this guy just finish the block, and then this is the stuff that separates a good play from a great play, and they do it all the time. You see Kittle do stuff like this all the time. You see, I forgot to even mention Juszczyk, like another freak at the fullback position that they use in creative ways. He does this stuff all the time. Like, the Niners are just a great football team.
Their mentality around blocking is how every team should be. Is like, as soon as a play's starting to look like it might get downfield a little bit, everybody's heads is on a swivel of like, who can I murder right now to turn this into a touchdown? And it's crazy enough because that seems so easy and intuitive, but yet, more than half the teams in the NFL don't have good discipline with this. And this team clearly does, and this is why they win football games.
I mean, God, it's just fun to watch, man. And that's Ayuk doing that after catching 2 touchdowns.
Right.
Like, he doesn't just want the glory. He wants to go and do the dirty work to help his team win. And it's not just him, it's Debo, it's Kittle, all these guys. And they're a early Super Bowl watch favorite, in my opinion.
Completely agree. NFC. Yeah. And look, everybody that loves football loves the 49ers for the most part, and it is just because they play like the most fun brand of football. So excited to continue to watch them, physically dominate and, impose their will on just about anybody that's on the other side of the line of the scrimmage for them. Okay, Commanders, Cardinals. Man, the Commanders just barely squeaked that one out, but they did. That game was rough.
It's a dog water matchup, man. It's a dog water matchup.
And you got dog water play. Like, that's what happened.
Says what it is. Sam Howell impressed me overall, I think. I mean, obviously he's playing one of the worst teams in the league, if not the worst. He impressed me. Josh, the fact that Dobbs came in, he barely even knows his teammates' names and came in and was able to, hang in there and have a chance to win the game is pretty impressive for the Cardinals. But if you're a Cardinals fan, I would get used to this because this is one of the best matchups you had all season and you didn't get it done. Washington did not cover the spread, but it's a good win for the Commanders, but I wasn't very impressed with either of these teams. And I don't really see, either of these teams making anything happen this year.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you on that one. Green Bay at the Bears. And look, I get this is the Bears, and everybody forgot they're the number 1 pick overall last year, and they traded out of it. And that means they were the worst team in the league last year. Let's not forget that. And they continued, in my opinion, to look like one of the worst teams in the league. I think that their linebackers, for how much money they spent on them, played incredibly undisciplined football. I thought they struggled to get a pass rush the entire game, and offensively, they were abysmal. And honestly, Fields can still kind of, make excuses related to potentially how much time he has in the pocket or his blocking, but he can't make excuses anymore about his offensive weapons. And still, he had a really rough, disorganized, messy game. And on the flip side of that, Jordan Love looked like he showed up and was ready to play ball, and he had all the time in the world in the pocket. That's for sure. The Bears did not really generate a pass rush whatsoever, but I still have to be impressed with Jordan Love's play, who, you know, Fields has 2 years of experience on him, and I thought Jordan Love was by far and away the more polished quarterback this game. And that's them missing his main receiving weapon, by the way.
Yeah, it surprised me this game. One of those ones that surprised me. It's one of those things is Green Bay as good as they looked, or is Chicago as bad as they looked, right? And that's the question that we'll have to see here as we move forward in the season. But if you're a Bears fan, you're definitely let down. I mean, it turns out the Packers still absolutely, without Aaron Rodgers, own you. And that is one of the longest rivalries in football. And
did you see that meme of like the like certificate of transfer and it says Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love? I was cracking up.
It sucks, man. If you're a Bears fan, there's not much to be excited about. You know, that was not a great showing. You had all the hype in the world. I mean, let's not forget people were putting Justin Fields ahead of Trevor Lawrence in the NFL top 100.
They're putting him in the MVP conversation.
I know, it's ridiculous. When I was in Chicago a few months ago with Joe, who obviously was on the show earlier. He, talking shit to everybody, and everyone's Justin Fields. Well, not exactly what you wanted to see.
Delusion, Bears fans. Hey, and honestly, no, I'm gonna be an
some things
about
don't
this
change.
For a second. Yeah, and Bears fans, I've had to hear you incessantly not only talk up your team, but call every other team in the NFC North fraudulent. Say this is your year, all these improvements, Ryan Poles, GM of the century, et cetera, just for you to go and shit the bed against your division rival with basically a rookie quarterback. I understand Jordan Love's been in the league for a few years, but that was his first start ever. Like, I'm sorry, Bears fans. All the shit talk that you have coming to you from Vikings fans, Lions fans, Green Bay, you deserve 100%. Because all offseason, I could not get away from Bears fans on Twitter. They wouldn't shut up. So sit down, shut up. You're the worst team in the NFC North, and you're going to stay that way. Sorry.
Normally, John and I go good cop, bad cop, but I'm going to stay bad cop here as we move into the next game because the Broncos, same shit. Different. Hey, same shit,
score.
Different year. Same score, different year. Same score, different year. They can't score more than 16 points, is what it seems like. Russell Wilson, he threw a touchdown, but again, they did not look very good. Sean Payton running his mouth in the offseason. You couldn't beat the Raiders, who are most people consider one of the bottom tier teams in the NFL. Definitely the bottom of that division, and you lost to them at home. You were 3.5-point favorites, and you lost by 1 to the Las Vegas Raiders. Jimmy G showing that he's kind of a dog. He wins football games. It's kind of never pretty with him, but he wins football games. He's got a great winning percentage as a starter in this league. This is a big win for the Raiders to get on the right track to see this is, what kind of season you're going to have. You have some dudes. A lot of people have their doubts about you, but you come in and you beat Denver, and Denver's defense, same shit, right? They played well. They're definitely a good defense, but Russell Wilson is not fixed. The guru, Sean Payton, that was going to come in and save him, has not. And I anticipate
he looked better.
That's fine. They scored 16 points. They lost to the worst team in that division, and it was at home.
Well, now they're the worst team in the division.
Right.
Isn't it crazy? That division right now, by the way, has only one team that won a game this week. Well, no, 2 teams. I'm stupid. Sorry. Yeah. But KC going down and Chargers going down. I mean, that's crazy for that division. And then the 2 teams, that you obviously expect not to be as good, just battled it out into 17-16. Brutal game. And look, at least the NFL learned their lesson, and then there isn't like 5 or 6 Broncos primetime games that I have to deal with this season.
Yeah,
thank God. Sure. But man, it's rough as a Broncos fan. I cannot imagine just watching all these low-scoring, grueling games week after week after week. It's brutal. It's really brutal.
I mean, he's getting outplayed in the state of Colorado by a college kid, Shadir Sanders. Colorado is playing better than Russell Wilson.
Damn.
So, not good for Denver.
This
Miami,
game,
good offense. You want to go from a bad offensive game, flip side 180.
Oh my God!
This game was exciting.
First of all, the Dolphins' offense is a video game. It is literally just Madden, Tecmo Bowl. I don't care. It is that come to life personified into a real NFL team. And by the way, the Chargers really aren't all too far away from that either. This game, if you want high scoring, exciting, big touchdowns, all of that stuff, this game had it. awesome shootout to watch. I loved this game. I watched the replay over again after watching it, live for the 3.5 or whatever hours too. Like, I mean, what an awesome game. And honestly, I gotta say it, man. This Dolphins team might be legit if Tua is healthy, because all he has to do is feed the ball to his weapons and it's game over. Like,
I keep doubting Tua, and I don't know why. I continue to doubt Tua. The guy just continues to prove me wrong. And there's a lot of people that, have doubted him in his young career, but he shows up, man. And when he's healthy, John, they win football games, and they have been one of the best offensive football teams the last 2 seasons. They came out it was fun to watch. Tyreek Hill is a cheat code. He might be one of the fastest human beings on the planet. He just so happens to also be able to catch neutral footballs and run great routes. And he's just special as a football player. And Tua's ability to get him the ball in creative ways might be Daniel's way to, the way that they move him around and they get him these favorable matchups where he's just going to run by dudes. I mean, there was on that one go route that he caught against Derwin James. I mean, Derwin James, one of the best defensive players in the league, and he had no chance. He was beat the first second of the play.
Brock Purdy being successful in San Francisco proves, in my opinion, that Tua can be plenty successful in Miami, right? Very similar systems coming from the same coaching tree. If Brock Purdy can blow out teams 30-7, then Tua's probably going to be just fine as an NFL quarterback. Hopping into Eagles Patriots, I did not watch this one. I did listen to a little bit of it. It sounded like it was pretty messy. Patriots defense was able to capitalize on a few things, but at the end of the day, the Eagles are able to come out with a win for it and cover. So
yes,
congrats,
the Eagles got up to the Eagles got up to an early lead. I think it was 16-0, and then Mac Jones actually played pretty well. Hunter Henry played very well. Listen, the Patriots on Tom Brady Day, right, where they're honoring him into the Patriots Hall of Fame, and he came out and did his entrance and rang the new bell that they have and their new jumbotron they put in, and everything. It was a huge day for New England. But the Eagles don't care about that. They came in and they got off to a great start. They fell off a little bit. Jalen Hurts, some uncharacteristic turnovers late in the game, keeping New England in it, fumbling when you have the ball up and you're driving, trying to run Jabril Peppers over, who had a great tackle, forced a fumble.
Oh my God, that was
the Patriots couldn't capitalize, and then you go for it. I don't know what Nick Sirianni was thinking on the 4th down. You go for it there, giving New England the ball right there at midfield. Couldn't capitalize again. The Eagles defense, was able to hold on at the end, but I think New England's not going to be as bad as we originally thought in our preseason, discussions about them. I think they're going to hang in every game. I really do. And I think that they're going to win a lot more games than we thought they would. That's maybe an overreaction, and I know they lost, but New England looked a lot better than I thought.
They looked more complete for sure. Yeah. And look, I think New England's defense will always keep them in games. And obviously they, kept a high powered offense at bay. I also got to say this too. Jalen Carter had the, I think, 2nd highest number of pressures in the league this past week too, as a rookie in his first showing. That defensive line is going to be dangerous, and it's going to give a lot of teams a hard time. So I'm interested to see, will the Eagles live up to the hype of last season? I think they have all the pieces to do it. They lost both of their coordinators. We'll see, from a coaching perspective, a scheme perspective, from a mistakes management perspective, we'll see if they're able to kind of keep that hype up. Moving on to Rams at Seahawks. I think Mark and I are both pretty shocked about this. With a weakened offensive line, with, no true RB1, with Cooper Kupp out of the game, with a defense that's kind of in rebuild mode, they went and they took it to Seattle, who I think Mark and I would agree going into this season looked a lot more like a much more complete, winning ready team. And the Rams just, no pun intended, rammed it down their throats the entire 60 minutes. Dominant run game. I was able to generate a good chunk of pressure on Geno. It was an ugly, ugly game for Seattle. And as a Lions fan, it has me pretty hyped up for the home opener next week as well.
Listen, you're going to run the ball all over a team. And if you can't get anything going offensively to counter, you see 259 yards at the half for the Rams, 3 total yards for Seattle. That was at halftime. it didn't get much better in the second half either. If you're going to run the ball over somebody and you can't do anything offensively, you're going to get a lopsided score like that. But nobody
the frustration showed. By the way,
I mean, DK Metcalf, this cheap shot that you'll see here. Seattle,
brutal.
It's brutal, man. It's brutal. Nobody expected it. I think Seattle has high expectations for themselves. I don't want to overreact and say that Seattle's not going to do some great things this year. I think they will, but you got to figure out how to stop the run. And for a Pete Carroll coach team, you don't see that very often where you just get dominated up front like that.
And this was my big thing talking about them in the offseason, right? Is that, look, man, receiver, you got an amazing trio of receivers. Cornerback, you're trying to bring the Legion of Boom back. I respect both of those things. Games are won in the trenches. And I said their interior offensive line was a problem. Now it's their entire offensive line. And on top of that, your defensive line did not get a pass rush against one of the worst offensive lines in the league, or at least they were last year. So keeping that continuity, that's not a good look. And by the way, your schedule is going to be loaded with teams that have better pass rushers than LA, and you're going to be loaded with teams that have better offensive linemen than LA. So they're going to have to figure that shit out pretty quickly, or else it's going to be an ugly season for the Seahawks, regardless of the skill position weapons that they have all over the place.
Yeah. And then we had two great primetime games, Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football.
Before we get there,
I'm not going to even entertain this.
Here's what I wanted to say, Mark. You hate on Matthew Stafford all the time. I think unfairly so a lot of the time. And you love Josh Allen. What are some of the talking points that you take against Matt Stafford? His recklessness with the ball, his number of turnovers. I don't know if Matt Stafford is a greater than symbol quarterback than Josh Allen. To me, they're the same freaking quarterback. They have huge arms. They play ballsy football. And yet they are super reckless with the football, turning it over all the time. And that is, before we get into the Jets game, that is why the Jets won that game, by the way, is Josh Allen's recklessness with the football. So to me, I don't think you can be a Matt Stafford hater and a huge Josh Allen fan, because they are one and the same as quarterbacks.
What's their winning percentage in their first 5 seasons?
What's his overtime winning percentage? Or his playoff winning percentage?
Matt
Stafford has a ring.
Yeah, he's played 15 years. I would hope he has a ring. He played for a super team last year. Listen, don't even get into it. And he played in the NFC. Don't even get into it against that. I'm not even going to entertain that debate. The only similarity they have is they both turn the ball over. Congrats.
Yeah, that's a problem, and I feel like you can't appreciate who Josh Allen is without also recognizing that. Didn't
I say I wasn't as high on the Bills going into this year, and the could easily hit.
Do we want to skip over Cowboys Giants because there's not a ton to talk about there, and just get right into this Monday night game?
I do want to point out the fact that in primetime games I was 3-0 this week in my picks, and my explanations were pretty spot on. Dallas got all over Daniel Jones, forced turnovers. The Lions upset the Chiefs. I said it wouldn't matter if Kelsey or Jones played. They were going to end up winning that game. And obviously I was wrong about the Rodgers thing. Didn't know he would get hurt in 2 snaps. But everything else about that was right. The Jets defense was too much for Josh Allen. The primetime moment was too big. And they got it done. But, dude, Dallas's defense, can we just point that out really quick?
Oh, my God.
I mean, listen. You want to talk about turnovers? They lead the NFL in forced turnovers the last season.
That's scary.
And they've gone in pretty hot this season against Daniel Jones. Feeling pretty shitty about paying Daniel Jones that contract right now if you're a Giants fan.
And honestly, I don't even know if it's Daniel Jones's fault.
It's a combination, but
it's a combination. The pressure that Dallas was able to generate on that offensive line was insane. I mean, they have no weaknesses anywhere on their defense. It's going to be a problem. A huge problem.
Pete adding Stephon Gilmore on that defense, another ball hawk.
Mozzie Smith player on the interior, and now you can just let Micah Parsons do whatever he wants.
Trayvon Diggs had a great game, was much more physical than we've seen him before, stripping the ball, not only guessing and getting interceptions, stripping the ball, doing those little things. Dallas was just flying around on defense. Very, very, very lopsided, 40-0 on Sunday Night Football. Boring.
You don't see that on the NFL too often.
No, you don't see that too often. And then obviously Monday night, one of the best games you could possibly have for a Monday night opener. There's a ton to talk about. We'll get into obviously I'm actually distraught and heartbroken for Jets fans.
All the hype, all of the offseason drama, the hard knocks. I think you had so much of the NFL in your corner. And
I got chills when he ran out.
Oh my God, the American flag thing. Like there was so much that just felt so right about this story of Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. It was one that just about every person that follows the NFL was very clued in on. Even if you don't follow the NFL, I think you were pretty aware of the happenings of Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. And for it to be done and over with in 4 snaps, I mean, it's just you're as a football fan, it is devastating. You have to feel horrible for Rodgers. I mean, because as you were saying, Mark, like everywhere else, man, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, that entire defense, this team is built to win a Super Bowl. And they were a quarterback.
That's the worst part about it.
Now they're right back to square one.
That's the worst part about it is you saw how good they are everywhere else in this game. I mean, Josh Allen looked like he's never played football before. I mean, it looks like it was like they had no idea what to do against that defense. Their offensive players, Breece Hall, what an awesome comeback from that injury. I mean, just big play after big play. Lazard stepped his way into it. Garrett Wilson making the one-handed catch, one of the best catches maybe we'll see this year in a huge moment. Zach Wilson stepped in, obviously played a lot better than we saw last year. Obviously, though, you can see it's not going to be enough to do what they expect to do in New York this year. They have a Super Bowl roster without Aaron Rodgers. You just need a top 16, 17 quarterback in the league, and you're going to compete for like Super Bowl. Like you're going to be on Super Bowl watch.
Yeah, I'm in like denial about it. I don't think have fully internalized the fact that we are not going to see a single down from Aaron Rodgers until
moving forward
next year.
And who knows? And the worst part about it too is like John and I were talking before this. I don't think it's going to be the end of Aaron Rodgers as an NFL player or as a Jet, but you never know. He's 40. He's going to be 40 years old. He's coming off of it. It's a bad injury. It's sometimes
a brutal injury.
It's tough to recover from. And he does he's not going to be able to do the things he wants to do if he can't get that injury healed right. So you really hope that he's not done after this and that he gets another shot at it. But God, you just felt how special it was. That crowd, the hunger that the Jets and their fan base have to be great. And this is the closest that they've ever been. And they still won the game in an unbelievable manner by creating 4 turnovers. Josh Allen just did not look good at all. And if he doesn't turn the ball over like that, the Bills, by the way, it still went to overtime. I mean, he threw 4 turnovers and this game still went to overtime. That just shows that Zach Wilson and the Jets were still struggling to get points on the board. But that defense in New York is unbelievable. The punt return for a undrafted rookie to in his first NFL game to win the game on a walk-off punt return on Monday Night Football with giving everything that happened earlier in the game for the Jets to hang on.
Talk about Madden curse. I think Josh Allen has the overtime curse. The ball never goes his way in overtime ever. And
they got the ball first.
They did, and not a whole lot happened, and then a punt return. A punt return is what does them in.
The funny thing is that's how it had to be because the Jets' offense wasn't going to drive down the field and score.
Oh, absolutely. And then we got to show this insane. I'll just run it back real quick. I mean,
terrible throw, by the way.
Yeah, and might already be in contention for catch of the season. Like this was ridiculous what he was able to do.
His releases are nasty. I mean, Garrett Wilson is so he reminds me so much of Devontae Adams as a young player. The ball skills, the route running, the shiftiness that he has at the line of scrimmage, getting off of. And by the way, the throw on the corner route a few plays before this that Zach Wilson made was really, really impressive. This throw here on the touchdown was not. I mean, he should have back shouldered it, made this an easy catch for him. Instead, whatever. I mean, you put the ball up in the air and give your guy a chance, and he makes this play happen.
Also, petition for them to keep that helmet the entire season.
Oh, the helmets are sick. This is the rebranded Jets look awesome, and it's hard not to root for them. And again, you feel horrible about what happened with Rodgers, but there's all kinds of talks, John, about what's going to happen. Yeah, as he pulls up this meme, he has to.
I can't help myself. Because here's the thing, I feel horrible for Aaron Rodgers. I'm a fan of Aaron Rodgers. I think, a lot of people attack Aaron Rodgers' character. I think it's really unwarranted. But as a Lions fan, you also have to now recognize that Kirby Joseph is the last person to receive a pass from Aaron Rodgers, and that's going to stay that way for almost 2 years now. With how his injury.
You're sick. You're sick for piling that in. You're sick.
I had to.
I
mean, there has to be some humor in it, at least a little bit, because internally I feel horrible.
Would you say that Kirby Joseph is Aaron Rodgers' Achilles heel? Too soon?
Also,
sorry.
Rich Eisen started talking about something which I didn't realize is the Jets did. I'm forgetting the whole story. The Jets did some big trade for a quarterback like 20 years ago, like 1999, and he tore his left Achilles in the first game on September 12th.
I mean, the Jets are cursed. There's no doubt about it.
They are cursed. They're absolutely cursed.
You feel for them. So here's the question before we move into the next week's picks. And there's all kinds of people talking about Tom Brady becoming a Jet. Do you trade for Stafford? What do you do? There's all these crazy things. I don't honestly know. But I do think you need to bring in some kind of veteran quarterback now and at least have him as a backup to Zach Wilson while he learns the system. And because you have a win now team. Like, here's the question you have to ask. Are the Jets closer to, I don't know, a team as bad as like the Broncos or Cardinals? Or are they closer to the teams like the Chiefs, Eagles, 49ers, teams that are competing for Super Bowls? I think they're closer to competing for Super Bowls.
100% close to competing for Super Bowls.
I mean, that's what you have to decide, because you have a roster built to win right now, and you're missing one key piece.
Who goes to them? That's the biggest thing up right now.
I don't know.
Who could you trade?
Do you go get Cam Newton? Do you go get
no?
Do you go try to bring Matt Ryan back out of retirement? Phillip Rivers out of retirement. He's a few years removed. Tom Brady is sitting right there. That would be an insane story.
That would be an insane story, but I think it's not going to be one that's going to happen.
I know.
So,
I mean, Stafford, people are talking about Stafford getting, but
they already tried to do that with the potential that the Aaron Rodgers trade was going to fall apart, and the Rams didn't even entertain it for a second. They're like, nope, that's our guy until he retires. So I legitimately don't know who you
do. You go get Jameis? Do you go? I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Like, I honestly
Jameis or Teddy are like your two best options potentially.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe the Lions should consider trading Teddy and get some value, because the Jets are kind of desperate. I don't know. There's a lot to.
I'm like sick thinking about it. Like, it is sad, so dude. Brutal.
It's so really, sad. Really it's bad. So sad. And the fact that, by the way, John said this as well. Aaron Rodgers, badass, tough as shit. I mean, that's Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality. To tear that's from people, I've never had it happen, but from people that have had that injury happen, some say it's one of the most painful injuries that you can have.
For those that don't know, that is the tendon that connects your calf to your foot. And for you,
it's not a small tendon.
It's actually one of the biggest ones in your body. For you to rupture it and tear it completely, that doesn't feel good, right? Like, that's probably hurts twice as bad as pulling a muscle, because you're not pulling a muscle, you're destroying the thing that anchors it to your body.
Not only that, but Johnny gets up and realizes the second he gets up and he starts to walk a little bit, he knew, right?
He knew the second that
when something like that, and he knew he was done. He just sits down. You could just see the frustration. Obviously, as we were watching, a lot of people were hopeful it was an ankle or something like that. But the more you watch him struggle to walk, we've seen that dude play.
I texted Mark, I think within 2 minutes of it happening, and I was like, I don't want to say it out loud without it being confirmed, but the way that his foot was planted and the way he went down, I was like, the only possible thing it could probably be is an Achilles or like a really bad calf injury.
It's terrible, man. And you feel for the guy and you feel for the Jets, but we'll move forward and hopefully they get a quarterback, and I'd love to see the Jets stay competitive this year.
Yeah. Starting off with Thursday night football this week, we got Vikings at Philly -7. I like Philly -7 here. I think that based off of the Vikings showing last week and based off of, what Philly's defense is generally capable of doing, I like their odds Thursday night football. Kirk Cousins isn't even in his 1:00 slot. He's in prime time. This is not looking good for the Vikings. So I'm going to go Philly here.
It's tough because 7 points is a lot in the NFL. The Vikings are 0-1, and they do not want to fall to 0-2. I'm going to take the Vikings to cover. the 7 points. I do not think they win this game, but I think that they keep it a little bit closer than people expect. They got beat up, John. They got beat up pretty bad by the Eagles last year, and I think that they'll make adjustments. That's
Sure.
kind of why.
Chargers at Titans. Man, that seems like a small spread just based off of not even like it. Is this team better than the other team? And I understand that the Titans defense is very, very, very good, but at the same time, like the Chargers offense is a powerhouse. If they're going to win this game, I feel like they're going to win it by more than 3 points. So I'm gonna take Chargers to cover here.
Yeah, it's in Tennessee, right? That's kind of, I think, why those points are diminished. Eckler, there's some injury issues, some concerns with him, whether or not he's going to play. But Justin Herbert is just a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill, and I don't think it's close. I think that the Chargers have them beat pretty much across the board offensively as well. I don't think Tennessee can compete with them offensively. I think that they'll limit the Chargers offense, but I mean, you saw Tennessee struggling against the Saints defense. The Chargers defense isn't bad. I'm going to go with the Chargers here, -3, and I'm going to bring that into one of my best bets as well.
I was thinking about it myself, but you know what? I'm going to join you on that if that's cool, because I was thinking about calling it.
John, if we push, we'll just not add it to our.
Yeah, because ties are annoying.
Three's a very tieable spread. So we'll just say it from here. If it's a tie, we just won't add it to it'll just act like it never happened.
We got Bears at Tampa, also -3. Yeah, I mean, I like Tampa as the favorite here based off of how the Bears played last week. Simple as that. I mean, I think if Tampa can go into Vikings and win that game, I don't think there's any reason why they can't win a game by the same margin with Chicago at Tampa. So I like Tampa here.
This is a tough pick for me. I think the Bears will play better. I think again, 3 is a tough number on that spread. I think that Baker's on revenge tour though, man. I think that he wants to prove people wrong. This is his first time at home to do that in Tampa. I'm gonna go with the Bucks as well.
Green Bay at Atlanta. I'm surprised that Green Bay is the favorite for this game, albeit by a small margin. I think Atlanta actually comes away with this game, and so I like them to cover as well. I just think that the run game is going to be a lot to handle, and I think that their defense will be able to keep up with whatever Green Bay's putting together as well.
I'm just going to agree with everything you just said. I think that they're going to run the ball in Green Bay, and I don't know if Aaron Jones is going to play. Jordan Love.
Aaron Jones has some injury.
Yeah,
problems.
Hamstring. So I'm going to go with Atlanta to outright win, but they'll for sure cover at worst.
Colts at Texans. I like Texans here personally. For honestly, a lot of the similar reasons why I like, Atlanta in the previous game. I mean, I think they'll be more imposing from an offensive perspective, and I think their defense will be able to capitalize on the Colts' fresh quarterback. So
I like the Texans as well. I think this is a tough matchup for Anthony Richardson. He's going to see a defense that's going to challenge him and his ability to read disguised coverages. He's going to see a lot of interesting blitz packages that DeMeco Ryans is going to dial up for him. So I think that the Texans win that game, but I'll take them to cover. I'll take the points to be safe.
Cool. We got Seattle at the Lions. Am I going to be biased and say that -6, I still might like this for a best bet? It's the Lions with their homecoming game, with an electric fan base and a run game that I am going to go and wager say is objectively better than the Rams. I think that the Lions offense is going to have their way with the Seattle team. And either way, last year, Seattle and Lions, it was a shootout. It was very, very high scoring. So if that's the case, then I like the odds for the Lions if they do win to win by 6. So
that was a very different Lions team when that happened, though, John. I mean, defensively, we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, you could just see the mistakes all over the field. Our coverage was terrible. We were getting gashed on third down. They were running the ball and scoring
I think defensively
touchdowns.
that we're going to have Geno running for his life and our secondary locking down their receivers. Frankly.
Yeah, I'm very, very tempted to do what you just did as well and move that into my best bets. I'm not going to do it because 6 points is a lot. But I will pick the Lions to cover for my picks, but I can't put in my best bets. I'm not as confident as you.
Yeah, I had to go back and forth a bit on that one. Okay, we got Baltimore at Bengals. This is a great test for Baltimore, honestly.
Both teams.
Yeah, great test for both teams. I'm interested. I'm surprised again that the Bengals are a favorite after last week's showing against the Browns. I think, Baltimore in a lot of ways plays a pretty similar style of football to the Browns. I like Baltimore to cover here for sure. And I like Baltimore to win this game.
It's a tough game. I'm gonna take Cincinnati to cover this one. It's tough. 3.5 is a tough number, but Joe Burrow losing back-to-back games, I think there's a bad taste in their mouth offensively. I think they're going to come out firing. They're going to take more shots down the field. Baltimore will play a decent amount of man-to-man on the back end, and I don't like when teams do that to Joe Burrow because he tends to pick you apart. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati to cover.
Raiders at Bills. I expect the Bills to win. I don't know if I expect the Bills to cover after last week's game, or I guess yesterday's game as of us recording this. I think -9 is a pretty big spread.
It's a big spread. Raiders cover it. They're going to get pressure on Josh Allen as well. And I expect Josh to play a lot better, but I still think that that's a tough defensive line for him. And, I think the Bills win, but I don't think they cover.
KC at Jags. This is going to be a fun matchup, a little bit of a potential revenge matchup for the Jags. Honestly, KC covering or not, to me, depends a little bit on Travis Kelce's health. I was none too impressed with KC's offense this past week. And obviously, they have, what did Joe say? Patty Daddy is what the girls were calling. Yeah, so they got Patty Daddy, obviously. So honestly, I like the Jags to win this game. And obviously, then I expect them to cover too. I think
so do I, John.
Starting 0-2. That would be interesting. I like that.
Go ahead and drag that Jaguar head down into my best bets because they will for sure cover, and I do like them to win this game in Jacksonville, home opener for them. Kansas City, Kelce, who knows if he's going to play or not. Even if he does, they also get Chris Jones back. Obviously, he signed his 1-year deal. So it's going to be a very different Kansas City team, going to be much more competitive. But this Jags team is for real. They almost beat them at Arrowhead last year in the playoffs. People forget. They were a unforced fumble away from winning in Kansas City. So Jags cover. That is in my best bets.
Yeah, what gives me trepidation is just I think Casey's defense has a lot of speed that will be able to keep up with them. But yeah, I like that. I'm thinking about it as well, but I'm not going to go for it. San Fran at Rams. Which basically this is a San Fran home game. If you guys have seen the past couple of years, they just, take the few-hour drive up to LA and you see more red jerseys than
the Rams don't have true fans in California.
No, they don't. And so I like San Fran here. I like them to cover. I'm not adding that to my best bets, but I think they'll win by a couple of scores for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not going to add it to my best bets. It's a pretty large number, but a lot of it comes down to McVay is a pretty familiar opponent with Shanahan. They know each other well. They think the same way. I think they prepare for each other very well. But we've seen the 49ers have kind of owned the Rams. And that's whether it's played at LA or in San Francisco. They own that state and they own the Rams.
Giants at Cardinals. The Cardinals being presented with another fleeting opportunity to potentially win a game, bringing what seemed like a Giants team that did not have their shit together whatsoever last week to their home turf. And yet, I like the Giants here. And honestly, I like them to cover. I think the Giants are going to be pretty pissed off that, Big Brother Dallas just beat the shit out of them at their stadium for 60 minutes. And, I think they'll end up coming away with this game against a, as we know, not very talented Cardinals team.
John, let me ask you a question. We'll do a little deep dive here. Who was the Eagles' defensive coordinator last year?
The current
current
Gannon
Cardinals
head coach. Yeah.
How did the Eagles defense do against the Giants last year in their matchups?
They crushed the shit out of them.
Yeah, so I'm going to take the Cardinals to cover. They will not win, but I think they limit the Giants offensively. That guy definitely knows one thing, and that's how to figure out the Giants offense, which is very similar to the offense they had.
Let's just hope that nobody on the Cardinals defense has tummy aches then. I'm sorry, I'm making the same joke 2 weeks in a row. I can't resist. But
I'm not putting in my best bets, but I think that the Cardinals cover. It's a home game, Arizona. I mean, come on, they're gonna hang around in some of these games, and if there's any games they're gonna hang around.
This next one is bold. I get that it's Jets at Jerry World, missing Aaron Rodgers, but we all just watched the same defense to do what they did against the Bills, right? I think this game, regardless of who wins it, is going to be more on the lower scoring side. And so for me, not only am I going to take the Jets here, but I think I might add it to my best bet that they'll cover here.
Holy shit.
I mean, a 9.5 point spread against that defense. Come on, man. That's crazy to me. That's my first reaction, at least, to it upon seeing that spread. So,
man,
10-point favorites. 10-point favorites.
Zach Wilson against that defense.
You
saw what
Dallas
they just did to Daniel. You saw what they just did to Daniel Jones, right? 40-0.
And I'm worried about I don't think this is because the Jets are going to score a lot of points. I think it's that the Dallas will be held to scoring not so many points either. I just don't. I can't imagine that this is going to be a 40-0 kind of showing again. It just doesn't make sense with the Jets defense. So that's where I'm at.
Shit, I'm gonna take Dallas to cover, but I'm not gonna put in my best bets. But I'm gonna take Dallas to cover. I don't know, man.
I
get it. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but Zach Wilson is going to be a deer in headlights, man. That defense is probably the toughest
with
defense
that offensive line too.
Well, that defense is probably the toughest defense he's going to see besides his own defense in practice.
I don't want to put this into the air, but Zach Wilson could also suffer a very severe injury with this game.
Well,
I mean,
he's going to be running for his life. I mean,
he's going to be running for his life, man. I don't know.
Bring back Flacco, baby. Bring him back.
Yeah. They're going to have to figure that out within the next day or two, right? On who the next quarterback is.
I think they have a third guy on the roster.
They do, but they're going to need to have 3 quarterbacks, I think. All right, Commanders at Denver. Somehow the Commanders are a favorite for this game, I guess, because of just how horrible Denver is.
Is that right?
I can look at it.
Yeah,
I trust Drew put this one together
because that seems fishy, right or no?
I don't know. I mean, Denver,
because if that's true, we got a best bet. We got a best bet alert coming from me.
Let me see.
It seems a little bit weird that the Commanders would get 3.5 points in that game.
Yep, you're right. Hey, I did this twice last week, so I'm not going to count it against Drew. But yeah, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. And in that regard, I would say that honestly, the Commanders probably cover still. I mean, I think they could potentially win that game, but being -3.5, I wouldn't.
I'm gonna go Broncos to cover, and I'm gonna still take it to my best bets.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had you guys reeling there, didn't you? Yeah, no, the Broncos cover. Russell Wilson does enough. The Commanders offense struggles like crazy against this Broncos defense in the Mile High.
Miami at Pats -2.5. I think I got to go Miami here, and I got to add them to best bets because if I think they're winning, I think they're winning by more than a freaking field goal. Once again, this is video game offenses we're looking at here. I'm surprised with the strength of, some of these teams, either offensively or defensively, that the spreads look the way that they do. Honestly,
You know what stops video game offenses
is
reality
Patriots
defenses. Yeah, reality defenses. I'm going to go the Patriots to cover the 2.5. I'm not going to put in my best bets though.
Okay. We got Saints at Carolina. I like them to win this game just because I think after Carolina's offensive showing, I mean, they're going to struggle to score any points against the Saints defense. I'm expecting this to be another low-scoring, brutal game, though. So while I think the Saints should cover, I'm not going to add that to my best bets.
I'm going to have the Saints cover as well. Kind of a shitty Monday Night Football game, for being honest. I know for you, you'd love to watch the Saints.
I don't know why. I don't know why there's two of them.
I kind of like that, though. I like that a lot, actually. More football, the better.
Yeah, I mean, two divisional games, too, so that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I'll take the Saints to cover. And then, John, in our next game, Browns -2.5 at Pittsburgh on Monday night, the second of the Monday night games. I'm going to go with the Browns to cover. Best bet.
Yeah, I was expecting that. I'm gonna stave off from the Browns on my best bets here, but I do like that one as well.
Kenny Pickett against that pass rush is going to be
actually JK. I'm adding it to mine too.
Oh,
I like it too much. That's the very worst I can hedge. If we're both wrong, we're both wrong. If we're both right, we're both right. But got to make up some ground here, some way or another. So everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. That feels good. Feels like we're back in the same old rhythm of covering a bunch of games, looking forward
covering games, previewing games, college football, NFL football, merch updates. Joe Svengeros on the show.
Back to our mid-season form already.
Season. And what a week one it was. College football continues to get more and more exciting. Obviously, every week, guys, tune in. Every week we do our episode, and we cover everything football related every single week. So follow us if you don't.
Yeah, if you have not subscribed to us or followed us, please do it. Get involved in the comments. Let us know why we're wrong about your favorite team. Let us know why you're right about the team that you hate. We're all here for it.
And please stop putting me as the starting hate comment in hype videos for Anthony Richardson.
No, keep doing that. It's good for the podcast. Good for the program. Mark, you got to know what you signed up for.
Dude, I guess. I guess.
Nah, you're.
I repped the shirt too, just to honor the Dolphins. By the way, I didn't even get a chance to say it, but it's
a dolphin. He's a dolphin.
It's a dolphin. Golfin. Get it? It says golfin. Get it?
It's a dolphin.
It's my way of honoring Tua, because I always slander Tua, and he earned my respect this week. We'll see if he does it against the Patriots.
You're about a year late to that, but I'm still here.
Hey, we'll see if he survives a season.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Definitely getting through. Let's hope he makes it through like 15 or 16 games without injury.
Let's hope he makes it through Foxborough and Bill Belichick's dialed up defense.
I like it. I like his odds there. So we will see you guys next week with some good old football talk, football previews, and a merch drop that you can actually go and spend money on rather than just kind of, marvel at the beautiful art that we put together for y'all to wear. Peace.
Peace out, guys.